You're in a room, someone's words slice like knives, dripping with superiority. Most people freeze, swallow the words, or mumble a weak response. Not you. Today, you're going to learn how to dismantle arrogance without anger, without losing your composure. The truth is brutal. Arrogance is always fragile. Every loud claim, every contemptuous glance, hides insecurity. The Stoics knew this. Seneca called it the desire to appear bigger when you're smaller. Epictetus taught that insults only matter if you accept them internally. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you cannot control others. Only your reaction. Every arrogant display is a test. Will you fall into the trap, reacting with fire? Or will you rise above, wielding calm as a weapon stronger than any verbal blow? By mastering this, you take the first step toward complete self-mastery. Your first weapon isn't a phrase, it's silence. The moment arrogance strikes, resist the urge to react. Most people jump to defend, to retaliate, to prove themselves. That's exactly what the arrogant want. They thrive on emotional fuel. You remove it entirely. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. It signals that you control your mind, not the chaos around you. Epictetus said it plainly. No one harms your mind without your permission. Imagine a colleague mocking your ideas, expecting a fight. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you refuse the bait. The room shifts. The arrogance loses rhythm. Suddenly, the loudest voice isn't the one in charge. It's yours, because your calm exerts more authority than anger ever could. This is Stoic mastery in action, dominating the situation without speaking a word. This phrase is deceptively simple, but lethal. The arrogant expect confrontation. They want conflict. They want to prove superiority. They want you to feed their ego. When you calmly say, you have a right to think that way, you shatter the game. You're not agreeing. You're not conceding. You're removing the tension, deflating the overinflated ego like letting air out of a balloon. Stoicism calls this removing the fuel from the fire. You maintain control while they flounder. The room sees your poise. The arrogant person loses their stage. Imagine a team meeting. Someone condescends. Ready for a fight. You respond, cool and composed. You have a right to think that way. Instantly, the energy shifts. The audience recognizes strength isn't in the loudest voice. It's in the unshakable calm that refuses to play their game. The arrogant crave rejection. They want to be opposed, dismissed, or challenged. Flip the script. When you respond with, "That's an interesting point. You've given me something to think about," you do something powerful. You shift the power. Instead of fighting, you invite reflection. You turn the aggressor into a teacher without giving them victory. Tone is everything. Calm, sincere, unshakable. No sarcasm. No mockery. Just presence. Seneca said nothing so arrogant cannot be softened by reason. You embody that principle. In public, at work, or among peers. This phrase subtly disarms. While others expect drama, you remain unshaken, forcing the arrogant person to confront their own ideas silently. Your calm becomes authority. They wanted a battle. Instead, you've handed them a mirror, and the audience sees who truly holds command. This is your invisible shield. The arrogant demand instant reactions, rapid retorts. They thrive in haste. You don't play by their rules. By saying, "I'd prefer to hear more before I respond," you seize control. You pause, you observe, you let their urgency collapse into irrelevance. In Stoic terms, this is strength, not hesitation. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, power lies in choosing our reactions. You show the room, and the arrogant that your mind is yours alone. The impatient attacks, the wild gestures, they lose rhythm. You remain composed, unshaken, sovereign in thought. This tactic is subtle yet devastating. The arrogant can't fight patience, cannot disrupt measured control. Imagine a debate. Someone shouts, tries to dominate. You simply say, "I'd prefer to hear more before I respond." Suddenly, the game changes. You're not fighting. You are leading, commanding, mastering the scene without raising your voice. This phrase is subtle, yet it dismantles arrogance without a single attack. The arrogant operate under the illusion that their opinion is the only one that matters. When you calmly state, "It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently," you hold up a mirror. You reveal the limitations of their perspective without confrontation. Epictetus taught that it's not events, but our interpretations that disturb us. This phrase embodies that truth. You shift the frame. Their certainty is no longer absolute. Their rigid stance becomes visible to all, while your calm displays maturity, empathy, and wisdom. Imagine a family argument or a public discussion. The arrogant believes they dominate, you respond, measured and serene. And suddenly their certainty falters. The room perceives your control, not through volume or aggression, but through clarity of thought and inner composure. You are untouchable because you don't react from pride. You operate from reason. This is the ultimate disarmament. The arrogant crave dominance, a sense of victory, external validation. You strip it all away with calm indifference. By saying, if that makes you happy, then that's fine. You refuse to play their game. You expose the fragility behind the loudness. Their words exist to satisfy themselves, not to challenge you. Marcus Aurelius taught that nothing controls us except what we allow to. This phrase applies that principle in its purest form. You step above conflict. You do not argue. You do not defend. You simply neutralize. Picture a coworker belittling you, trying to assert superiority. Instead of engaging, you respond calmly. If that makes you happy, then that's fine. Silence follows, eyes open. The arrogant is unarmed, their insecurity exposed. The room recognizes your command. This is not defeat, it is mastery. You win because you refuse to be manipulated by pride or provocation. These 5 phrases are not isolated tools. They form a system of control, grounded in Stoic wisdom. Silence. You have a right to think that way. That's an interesting point. I'd prefer to hear more. It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently. And if that makes you happy, then that's fine. Each moves you toward dominance without aggression. The pattern is clear. Do not engage the arrogance directly. Neutralize it with calm, reasoning, and measured presence. Stoicism teaches that power resides not in overpowering others, but in mastering yourself. Every phrase is a step in dismantling their facade. Piece by piece, while elevating your own stature. Arrogance thrives on reaction. You starve it. You control the rhythm, the perception, the emotional temperature of the room. By applying this system consistently, you transform provocations into exercises in self-discipline, intelligence, and authority. Knowledge without action is useless. These phrases are weapons, but only if deployed strategically. At work, a condescending colleague expects argument. Respond with, "You have a right to think that way," and watch their posture collapse. At family gatherings, when someone tries to dominate a conversation, calmly state, "It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently." You create respect without conflict. Among friends or social groups, arrogance thrives on immediate reactions and emotional fuel. Use "I'd prefer to hear more before I respond," or "That's an interesting point. You've given me something to think about." You seize control and shift dynamics. The pattern is universal, wherever arrogance appears. These phrases become your shield and sword, giving you the upper hand, not through volume or force, but through disciplined composure and subtle authority. Mastery is not seen in aggression. It's in the calm that forces others to follow your lead. Arrogance is a performance. It depends on your reaction to exist. Every insult, every condescending remark is a call for validation. The moment you refuse to give it, their power evaporates. These phrases work because they exploit a hidden law of human behavior. People can only dominate minds that are vulnerable. "You have a right to think that way" denies conflict. "That's an interesting point" redirects the ego. "I'd prefer to hear more before I respond" forces patience. "It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently" reframes certainty. "If that makes you happy, then that's fine" exposes fragility. Each phrase triggers a cognitive shift. The arrogant expects reaction. They get calm. They expect escalation. They get mastery. Psychology and Stoicism converge. Control your mind. Control the situation. By applying these methods, you turn a potential battlefield into your stage, commanding respect effortlessly while the arrogant scramble in their own insecurity. Knowing these phrases isn't enough. You must train yourself to deploy them instantly, without hesitation. Arrogance moves fast. If your response lags, you lose. Begin by practicing silently in your mind, imagining every possible confrontation. Rehearse. "You have a right to think that way." "That's an interesting point. I'd prefer to hear more before I respond." "It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently." "If that makes you happy, and then that's fine." Over time, they become reflexive. Your mind anticipates provocation and answers with precision. Stoicism is a discipline, not theory. Like a warrior, you condition yourself to respond with calm dominance. The arrogant test will appear often in meetings, in family arguments, in social situations. If you've internalized these phrases, you no longer need to think. The response emerges naturally. Mastery is now muscle memory for the mind. Your calm becomes a force field no arrogance can penetrate. When you consistently apply these phrases, something shifts in how people perceive you. Calm authority radiates without effort. Colleagues, friends, even strangers. Notice that your presence alone alters the dynamics of a room. The arrogant no longer intimidates, they hesitate. The quiet power you wield signals discipline, intelligence, and self-control. Social hierarchies bend around composure, not aggression. In the workplace, meetings are no longer arenas of ego battles. They become spaces where your calm guides decisions. Among friends, debates end with reflection instead of tension. This is the modern proof of Stoicism. Inner mastery directly transforms outer influence. People respect the unshakable, not the loud. By consistently practicing these 5 phrases, you become the standard others measure themselves against, not through dominance, but through serene command and uncompromising self-control. Arrogance sometimes turns into aggression. The louder they scream, the harder they push. They hope your composure cracks. This is the ultimate test. Here, the 5 phrases become shields and anchors. Silence first, then deploy. I'd prefer to hear more before I respond to force reflection. It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently to deflate certainty. Finally, end with, if that makes you happy. Then that's fine to nullify the fight entirely. Every escalation is a test of your mental muscles. The Stoics practice this every day. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that nothing external can harm him without consent. You operate the same way. Control the conversation, control your emotions, control your impact. The arrogant person becomes a spectator in their own show. By remaining unshakable, you transform chaos into clarity, aggression into insight, and provocation into proof of your inner dominance. Mastery isn't a single encounter, it's a lifestyle. You don't deploy these phrases once and expect permanent influence. You train daily. Every conversation, every minor irritation is an opportunity to strengthen your calm. You observe, you pause, you respond deliberately. Over time, your mind stops reacting impulsively to arrogance, provocation, or criticism. Silence becomes natural. Reflection becomes instinct. These phrases are no longer tools. They are extensions of your character. The Stoics understood this. Virtue is habit, not theory. Epictetus said, "We are what we repeatedly do." By integrating these principles, you live with unshakable clarity, responding to any challenge with discipline, reason, and authority. Arrogance and provocation lose their grip entirely because your power originates from within, independent of others' actions or words. The real power isn't just control over others, it's control over yourself. Every arrogant remark, every provocation used to trigger stress, anger, or doubt. Now, you respond with calm authority, and those emotions no longer rule you. Your mind becomes untouchable. By consistently applying these phrases, you achieve a rare mental state. Freedom from needing approval, freedom from reactive anger, freedom from the chaos of other people's egos. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This is not theoretical, it's lived experience. The arrogant still speak, but you no longer feed them. Their words slide off. Peace becomes your default state. Influence follows naturally. Respect is earned silently. You are no longer a participant in others' vanity. You are the observer, the leader, the calm force in a storm of noise. All the knowledge, all the phrases are meaningless unless you act. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Start today. In every conversation, every subtle attack, every display of arrogance, apply these 5 Stoic weapons. Silence. You have a right to think that way. That's an interesting point. I'd prefer to hear more before I respond. It's interesting how everyone sees the world differently. And if that makes you happy, then that's fine. Train them until they flow naturally. Feel the shift as control, authority, and respect become your baseline. This is not about ego, it's about mastery. You are no longer vulnerable to the whims of others' pride. Your mind, your peace, your life are yours. Now take the first step. Choose one phrase to deploy in your next encounter. Test it, own it, transform every confrontation into an opportunity to rise above. The power is yours. Refuse to settle for anything less.